Today, through this conversation, I want to talk about self-respect and offer you 5 powerful ways you can increase your sense of self-respect. I shared a post related to this recently on the Becoming Unshakable Instagram page, so if you're following along on there, you may have seen it. If not, I would love to invite you to join in on that space. I'll have a link below, but I want to dive a little bit deeper. Self-respect is such a hot topic on my client calls because self-respect and self-worth are very intimately connected to one another. If you look up the definition of the word respect, it says a feeling of admiring someone or something that is good, valuable, and important. Another definition says to hold in high regard. So self-respect is admiring ourselves and recognizing how good, valuable, and important we inherently are. It's holding ourselves in high regard. And this is so important because in order to consistently make choices that are reflective of our belief in our worth, we have to respect ourselves. This is a question I often ask my clients straight up. Do you respect yourself? And I'll pose that same question to you here now. Do you respect yourself? A lot of times people will say, yes, of course, because we all want to be someone who respects themselves. But if you take a step back and look at their choices and their behaviors and the words they use when they talk about themselves, you start to think otherwise. And this isn't to shame anyone. So if you're listening and you're thinking, well, I say I respect myself, but do I really? This isn't to shame anyone, but to simply shed light on the truth that saying you respect yourself and actually respecting yourself are two very different things. And really, our life will reflect back to us our level of self-respect. Our level of self-respect influences so many things. What we're willing to say yes and no to, the types of relationships we choose to entertain, our willingness to establish and uphold boundaries and standards, how we treat our body. So many things come back to self-respect. And to be honest, this was something I really had to work on early in my journey. When I first began doing inner work about 6 years ago, I was leaving a toxic and abusive relationship, and I didn't respect myself. I was angry at myself for staying as long as I did, for putting up with all of the craziness and all of the hurt. But when I pause and get really honest with myself, I recognize that it wasn't just in that relationship that my lack of self-respect was evident and obvious. It was obvious throughout my life and within many different areas of it. And so I really had to start here with establishing a solid sense of respect for myself. Now, the thing to know is this. If we lack a solid sense of respect for ourselves, it's because there are deeper wounds or traumas at play that we haven't taken the time to look at and process. And these are most often wounds around rejection or abandonment. A lack of self-respect is simply a symptom of something deeper going on. So at the same time as I was having to build up my sense of self-respect, I also had to get really clear on why it was so hard for me to respect myself in the first place. So if this topic really resonates for you, I encourage you to dig a little deeper. What's actually going on? For this conversation, though, I want to stick to the topic of self-respect. And before I go into this and share 5 ways you can increase your sense of self-respect, I want to say when I first began this process, it was not easy. My lack of self-respect was very much tied to old rejection wounds, and it takes a lot of time to unravel from those deeper issues that are going on. So it wasn't always easy to make choices that demonstrated I respect myself or to speak about myself in ways that were more positive. However, one question I continuously came back to, and one that I still come back to today when I have a choice to make, is how would a woman who respects herself move right now? How would a woman who respects herself talk about herself? What type of standards and boundaries would this woman have, and what would she be willing to do to uphold them? How would she treat herself? What type of men would she engage with? And asking myself these questions aligned me with that woman. And it also offered me more clarity as I moved forward. Now, that doesn't always mean that I made the choice that that woman would make all the time, especially at first, because I absolutely did not. But what was most important is that I knew what I was doing. I was extremely aware of the fact that I was either moving in a way that says I respect myself or moving in a way that says I don't respect myself. And by asking myself those questions, I planted myself firmly in accountability. I couldn't fall back on blaming other people anymore. I really had to step up and take responsibility for myself. And it's when we can take full ownership over ourselves and our life and be in accountability that we're able to truly change our life. And so those questions really, really worked for me. Okay, now that that's been said, let's dive into it. 5 ways you can increase your sense of self-respect. And each of these are based on my personal experience of what has been supportive for me, as well as what I've seen be supportive for my clients. The first thing on this list is honor your word. I see so many women who consistently go back on their word, especially in regards to upholding boundaries, standards, and what they need. They'll say one thing, but as soon as they're called to uphold the thing they've said, they completely abandon their word. Going back to that toxic and abusive relationship I mentioned previously, I did this a lot. I was living with this person at the time, and he had a pattern of disappearing for days or even weeks whenever he did something hurtful. And whenever he would leave, I'd say, "You can't come back." But what did I do? Every single time he came knocking on the door, I opened it and let him in. And now think about what this says. What this says is you don't have to respect me because I don't even respect me. You don't have to take what I say seriously because I don't even take it seriously. So just a quick side note here, we inspire people to respect us by respecting ourselves first. Every single time you say one thing and then go back on your word, you chip away at your sense of self-respect, and I'll add in here your level of self-trust as well. You also create internal resentment that's often projected outwardly onto others, making them the problem, when actually the issue is our lack of integrity. It's our inability to stand in what we say. Honor your word. And if this is a struggle for you, I encourage you to do the inner work needed to understand why. And again, this especially is most often linked to wounds around rejection or abandonment. The second thing on this list of ways you can increase your sense of self-respect, stop lying to yourself. Face what it is you need to face. Acknowledge what it is you need to acknowledge. Lying to yourself breeds anxiety, dis-ease, and insecurity. And if you're lying to yourself, I'd be willing to bet you're lying to others as well. I see this play out a lot with the women I mentor in their willingness to share openly and vulnerably about what they truly desire in a relationship. A lot of women will lie to themselves and say, "This is fine, I'm okay with this, I can accept this," when deep down it's not fine, they're not okay with it, and they don't want to accept it. And in this scenario, they're not only lying to themselves, but they're lying to the person they're in a relationship with as well. This never ends the way we hope it's going to. I also see this play out a lot in regards to emotional experiences. So a lot of times women will pretend they're not hurt or angry. They'll dismiss it, write it off, pretend like it doesn't bother them, maybe because they're worried about being viewed as too much. But again, this never ends well. You can't have respect for yourself while at the same time not being willing to be honest with yourself. Have courage. Have the courage to choose the truth. Number 3, treat your body, mind, and spirit well. In my opinion, how well someone treats their body physically is a huge indicator of their level of self-respect. And I know it's said a lot and it's a little bit cheesy, but your body is your temple. Treat it as such. Nourish your body. Prioritize your health. Exercise. Drink plenty of water. Get enough sleep. Share your body with discernment. Meditate. Become self-aware, read, journal, take an interest in understanding how the mind and the ego work and how they influence your life. Regulate your nervous system. Pray, connect, pour into your spirituality in whatever way feels true and right for you. A nourished woman, a woman who is showing up for her needs, is a woman capable of pouring into others from a genuine place as opposed to a resentful or burnt out place. Treat your body, mind, and spirit well. The 4th item on this list, do the things you know you need to do. Know you need to have a hard conversation? Have it. Know you need to get your finances in order? Focus on it. Know you need to start taking your health seriously? Do it. Know you need to leave the relationship? Get out. Stop procrastinating on the things you know you need to do. Respecting yourself means taking aligned action towards those things that will ultimately bring you closer to who you wish to be and the life you wish to live. Does this mean those things will always feel easy and comfortable? Absolutely not. Most of the time, these things are the ones that feel the hardest and the most uncomfortable, and that's why we're avoiding them. But that's no excuse. Take responsibility for your life. Stop procrastinating on the things you know you need to do. And the 5th and final thing on this list of ways you can increase your sense of self-respect, pursue your purpose. If you aren't sure what your purpose is, look towards those things that truly light you up, your passions. Your passions are linked to your purpose, and pursuing those things puts you in line with your highest potential. Now, does this mean your purpose is always going to be linked to your career? No. And I think this is where a lot of people get hung up. They think of purpose and career as one and the same, and that's not always the case. Maybe you feel your purpose is to serve and nurture those around you. You might have a very normal 9-to-5 job, but in that job, how can you also be in your purpose? How can you serve and nurture those around you while you're there? Purpose gives our life depth, and it gives our life so much more meaning. Just think about someone you know or someone you've seen on social media who's pursuing their purpose. You feel inspired by them. You respect them. Be that person. Okay, quick recap here. 5 powerful ways to increase your sense of self-respect. Honor your word. Stop lying to yourself. Treat your body, mind, and spirit well. Do the things you know you need to do. And pursue your purpose. Remember, it might not feel easy at first to do these things, especially if there's some deeper inner work you need to do. But go back to those questions from earlier and ask, how would a woman who respects herself move right now? Connect with that woman and allow her to guide you. Self-respect. This is so important. I hope this was helpful. Again, self-respect is a topic my clients and I really dive into through the one-on-one inner work mentorship options I have available. So if that's something that interests you, I'll have a link listed below. But otherwise, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.